If you're struggling with pelvic floor dysfunction or symptoms like prolapse or leaking, or you've got back pain, and you're trying to resolve those issues by only focusing on the pelvic floor, you're missing a really big part of the puzzle, and that is your rib cage. So, this is a really good example because if I am trying to take pressure off my pelvic floor, so my pelvic floor is down here, this is my rib cage up here. But if I'm really compressed in my rib cage, and this is especially was true for me after pregnancy, I was super compressed right here and in the back, but I was really flared right here on my low ribs. When I was trying to heal my pelvic floor prolapse and relieve the symptoms that I was experiencing by only focusing on the pelvic floor, I wasn't really getting anywhere. And it wasn't until I learned to expand my rib cage in the front, in the back, and side to side, so there was lots of room for my diaphragm to come back up on the exhalation, that I really noticed a difference in my pelvic floor symptoms. So here's my torso. This is my pelvic floor. This is my rib cage. Totally compressed in my rib cage. So when I do my breathing, my core activation, my lengthening of the pelvic floor, that's all really good. But then I need the pressure to come back up off the pelvic floor. But if there's nowhere for it to go because my ribs are compressed, it's just going to continue the cycle. But I need it to open so that I can get that pressure off the pelvic floor. So if here is open and I'm not squeezing there, that's not compressed anymore, and I want to get that pressure to come back up, then it moves easily. It can have that reciprocal motion of the inhale, diaphragm pushing down, and the pelvic floor lengthening, and then on the exhale, that natural contraction of the pelvic floor and the doming up of the diaphragm, pulling the pressure up off the pelvic floor. So we get that nice flattening and catching with the pelvic floor, exhale, contraction, and the doming back up of the diaphragm. When we have open rib cage and room and expansion, that pressure on the pelvic floor has somewhere to go. So when we have pelvic floor symptoms, it's really easy to just become super focused on that area and forget that the whole body is connected. We're doing pelvic floor contractions, we're learning how to lengthen the pelvic floor, we're learning how to manage the pressure so it's not just pushing down, but we forget that the whole body is connected. So if we've got all this compression in the rib cage that's not allowing that pressure to come back up off the pelvic floor, then we're just ending up in this cycle where we're constantly having to use those strategies, turning on the pelvic floor, holding the core muscles on to prevent that pressure from pushing down.